Hey, this is Doug with Design 8 Studio. Behind me, to my right, your left, you can see one of my two Adventure 5M printers working up a storm. I've got the DIY printed enclosure on it, and I've got acrylic panels on it. My panels had protective brown craft paper on both sides, and I honestly thought I was cutting clear. And then when I peeled the protective paper off, lo and behold, I had cut frosted white. So I've obtained some clear acrylic to redo that. And in the meantime, you really can't beat the current price on the Flashforge website of only $299 for this amazing printer. So I've purchased a second printer. So I'm going to be doing the DIY printed enclosure on it. And just like I've already upgraded the first one to have Klipperscreen on the LCD and to have control of it with those Klipper tools like Mainsail and Fluid, I'm going to be doing that to the second one. So I just happened to mention some of my printable models that help with this printer in a Reddit discussion. You can see here on the screen 3 helpful print models I've made for the Adventure 5M. One is this faster, easier, simpler, stronger termination for the drag chain, the cable chain, at the extruder/hot end. The second one is that the USB camera comes stock on the Pro version of the printer, but you can buy the camera from the Flashforge website to put on the AD5M, the non-Pro version. And it works great, but there's just one wrinkle. If you have done the DIY printed enclosure, then your LCD touch screen is now moved up. And it moves up just far enough that the USB cable from the printer is now no longer long enough to reach. And I took some careful measurements and realized that just by modeling up a 3D printed plastic mount for the PCB that has the camera on it and taking out 2 little tiny screws and putting the PCB into the new printed mount, that printed mount could be extended so that it raises the camera up ever so slightly, and it gets it just close enough that you can make it work. That was the second mod. And there you can see that printed camera mount in action. There's the camera. These are photos I took of the factory stock injection molded camera mount. But then my third, so far anyway, my third mod for this printer is a container for my extra nozzles. They've got these nice nozzle packs that they have everything from the heat break all the way down to the hot end. It's all self-enclosed and it's quick change. You just grab 2 buttons and pull out one nozzle, stick another one in. And I wanted a place to store them that would keep them attached to the printer so they don't get misplaced and lost. I found a box that was made to hold these nozzle kits for the AD3 and the AD4, and it just took a little remixing. I had to do some housekeeping. The box design, the main base of it was not a watertight solid, so it threw errors in the slicer, and the holes weren't evenly spaced, and they weren't large enough. They weren't quite large enough for the nozzle kits for the AD5M. But there's the back of the printer, and I've got another video I'll link in the description that shows how this mounts to the back of the printer. This is particularly the mount part. Now, you can the link has a box that is not mounted. There's no mount on the back of the box, and you just put it wherever you want. But if you want to use the one that has the mount sticking out the back that attaches onto the back of the printer, then your printer needs to have the DIY printed enclosure on it, because the holes that used to hold the spool holder and the stock design, when the spool holder gets moved for the DIY printed enclosure, it frees up those holes. And those are the holes that I'm using to mount this. But I happen to mention on Reddit about my 3 helpful printer mods, and a fellow Redditor, Woodpecker Worried 934, asked any chance we could get a video on the Klipper mod, please. And so I'll put links in the descriptions to all of this, but my post here, 3 helpful print models that I've made, is on the discussions area of the GitHub where the Klipper mod for the Flashforge AD5M is. And so if you go to the code section, immediately below the folders is, by default, GitHub displays the README. And so you're looking at the README for the Klipper mod for the Flashforge Adventure 5M Pro. And one of the questions that was asked is it a problem to do this when you're on a Mac? It's absolutely not. I'm on a Mac, and the Klipper tools like Mainsail and Fluid, those are browser-based access points to control the printer and also to wirelessly send print jobs to the printer, and they get served from the device to the browser. So they are operating system agnostic. It can absolutely work on a Mac, and it's easy to do this mod on a Mac. So here's your README, and you're looking down through here, and you see, to get started, download the latest release build. And so I want to show you real quickly how to do this. So documentation for how to install the Klipper mod. And you'll see here that it tells you exactly what to do, but it'll say go to the release page, and you have to download the file. And then on the 5M Pro, the archives have to be renamed to this particular format. Now, it may be that they don't have to be renamed for the regular 5M, the non-pro version, but I only got it to work by renaming mine, and I don't have a Pro. I have the regular version. So I don't know if some kind of tweak to this documentation is needed or not. But you'll see here it says to download the latest and put it onto a USB drive, plug the drive in before starting up the printer, and then once it's done installing, if it's successful, it'll be indicated on the display when it's finished. Now, the difference between just being able to access it in a browser remotely with either Mainsail or Fluid versus having those two plus putting Klipperscreen on the LCD is just a matter of which release file you choose. I'll show you that in a moment. Also, they mentioned custom files here, and this trick of doing custom files by creating a Klipper mod folder on the USB and putting, for example, a .psk for pre-shared key that tells the printer what your Wi-Fi info is. That's one of the ways that the instructions for how to get your Wi-Fi working, it's one of the ways listed on that page. But of the 3 ways listed on that page, for whatever reason, for me, the first 2 didn't work, and only the third one worked. And the third one was to do the Klipperscreen mod on the LCD, and then you can just, on the LCD screen with Klipperscreen, you can just type in your password for your Wi-Fi. You can pick your Wi-Fi network, type in your password. That was the only way I could get Wi-Fi to work on mine. For some reason, carefully following the steps was being ignored for me. And so you'll click onto the release page, and this one right here is the one I did, Adventure 5M Klipper Mod version 00.03 beta. This pre-release version is the one I use, and it's been working great. And you come down to Assets, and you open up Assets, and you'll see here that there is a Adventure 5M Klipper Mod. This is the one you do if you want remote access with Mainsail and Fluid, and you don't want Klipperscreen. And then just underneath it is one that is Adventure 5M Klipper Mod 0.03 pre-alpha, and then it says Klipperscreen on the end. This is the one to choose if you want it to have Klipperscreen on your LCD. So this is the one I want. So I'm going to click on this to download it. And once that's downloaded, I will simply put that onto a USB drive. And again, in my case, I had to rename it. So let me go into my file finder and show you the renaming structure that I used that worked. All right, so here I am in my file finder, and I've got my Adventure 5M folder, and I double click on that. I've got firmware, and inside firmware, I've got the Klipper mod for Flashforge Adventure 5M and Pro. This is a community mod, and when I double click on that, I've got the Klipper mod, and then I've got the Klipperscreen variant. And this is the very same file I just downloaded in front of you, only this one was downloaded a few days ago. And when I go into it, you'll see there's the download. But for the USB drive, I renamed it for the USB drive. And this is what I did. I had earlier downloaded the Flashforge firmware for this printer that is the latest firmware available, which is 2.4.5. And by the way, I think that latest firmware is needed for this project to work. So if your firmware from the factory is not at least 2.4.5, you'll need to go to Flashforge's support website, download the latest firmware, and get up to at least 2.4.5. But what I did was I took the file name that they had given, and I put that file name structure in. So I don't know if this name was too long, or if maybe I just wasn't getting the USB thumb drive all the way in, or if the USB thumb drive didn't get detected for some reason. And so I don't know if it was just a coincidence that it finally got detected on the try where I renamed it, or if renaming it helped. But if you put this on a USB drive and it doesn't work, then try renaming it with this format. By the way, one other thing I noticed is that I had to, this used to be a lower number, like 4 or 5. And in order for it to actually work, I had to notch one of the numbers up a little bit. So I think I upped it. And so each time I redid it, I had to change the number. I had to iterate the number one notch higher, because the system seems to compare the number that is installed with what it sees in the file name, and it seems to ignore a number that matches what it's already got. So I may have just ridiculously overcomplicated it, but for some reason when I just dropped this file as named onto a USB thumb drive, it didn't work. But when I named it in a named format consistent with an earlier version, and so by upping one of the numbers just a digit up, it worked. So you take that, you drop it onto a USB thumb drive, turn the printer off, put that in, and turn the printer back on. And when the printer is finished doing the update, it tells you that it's done. It tells you that you can take the thumb drive out and then turn the printer off and turn it back on. And when it comes on, it will have the new software. There's some other instructions. For instance, you'll need to know what your home Wi-Fi internet, what IP address it has assigned to the printer, and https://, and then that IP address is the basic way to access the printer, but then a port number. One port number, it gets served Mainsail. Another port number, it gets served Fluid. And still another port number is for accessing the camera. All this information is in the README. And so this is the Mainsail interface. I've got the camera installed. I'm printing a phone holder. The print is 66% done. The right side of the Mainsail screen shows my extruder temperature. You can see the history of my extruder temperature on the red line. It shows the heater bed temperature. You can see the heater bed temperature on the history in a blue line. It shows the load cell. You can see the load cell values fluctuating up and down on the history. There's a console for entering commands. And by the way, that whole thing about ports, there's another port. One of the ports is Mainsail, one of the ports is Fluid, one of the ports is your webcam if you have one installed, and one of the ports is a way to get SSH access into the printer. Now, it is a limited SSH functionality. For instance, if you did SSH into a Raspberry Pi, you could run make commands and actually clone repos and build software from your cloned repos right there on your Raspberry Pi and install the software that you just cloned and built. You can't do that kind of thing on this. One of the ways that Flashforge got this printer so affordable is it's minimal on its resources. The main board is strong enough to have this slightly older version of Klipper on it, and the LCD is just barely strong enough to have these added features to it. But other features that you could find on a Raspberry Pi and so forth, those kind of features are not available. But this is fully functional. I've got many hours of printing on it. The Klipperscreen on the LCD appears to be, as far as I can tell, rock solid. And the Mainsail is rock solid. And the printer is working great. And so I'm liking Mainsail. It's the first thing I tried. But this is just a really wonderful thing. Here in OrcaSlicer, I downloaded the set of build plates from Flashforge for printing the DIY enclosure, and they pre-built into this file all of the print profiles for the AD5M. And so you can simply open this file up, delete all of these plates except one, and then save that as an OrcaSlicer setup file, which it will save it as a 3MF. And then you can just start putting on a new print bed in this program. You can start putting anything else you want to print. For example, this is that box that holds the hot ends. And so my point is, this gets you easy access to this advanced set of profile options and speed settings that makes the printer really sing and really come alive and really do what it's supposed to do. And so I'd save multiple copies of this with just one print bed in them for the various things. And I'm so new at OrcaSlicer till I don't even know my way around this thing. I don't know how to do like managing printer devices, but I do know that up in this left-hand corner where it says the name of the printer, that if you go to edit this, it will want you to give it a different name other than what it had so that you're saving it under its own kind of space. But under connection, this is where for transmitting wirelessly from this to the printer, which is a super handy feature, here's where that IP address that got assigned from your Wi-Fi network, here's where you would put that in. For me, it's 192.168.1.14, and the port afterward, you put a colon and then the port, and the port is 7125. And so you put that in and you click test, and it will tell you if it worked right. And then from then on, all you have to do to send it to the printer is just hit the print button and say, yes, I want to upload and print. And it works a treat. I mean, it absolutely works a treat. One other thing I should mention there is that I didn't want the possibility of that 14 changing to some other number. If I turn the printer off and then some other device connects and it gets assigned the 14, and then I turn the printer on, and the DHCP assigns it automatically a new number. I wanted the same number every time. So I went in my browser and I put in, the manufacturer tells you a web address to put in to get to your Wi-Fi router's control panel. And there's a setting in there. It's different for every manufacturer. So look up for how to do a static IP, an assigned static IP in the user manual of your Wi-Fi router. But I looked up how to do that. I clicked into the control panel, the administrator panel for my Wi-Fi router, which was a Nighthawk, a Netgear Nighthawk. And I clicked into the advanced settings and clicked to add a static IP for this device. And what it does is it uses the MAC address for that device as an identifying trait. And every time that device with that MAC ID connects to your Wi-Fi router, it knows that that device gets this IP address. And there's only one other thing to be aware of with regard to that, and that is that if you do this mod, the MAC address that your printer used to have from the factory firmware, that's going to get overwritten. This new firmware is going to assign, I have no idea how it randomly does this, but it's going to assign a new MAC address to the device. And then if you do the one that doesn't have Klipperscreen, and then you later overwrite that with the one that does have Klipperscreen, it's going to create yet another MAC address for the printer. So I had already assigned a static IP address on the Wi-Fi router, and after I changed the firmware to the one that does Klipperscreen on the LCD, it no longer worked because now it's a new MAC address. So I had to find out that new MAC address and then go and change that again. So that's getting a little, that's kind of outside the scope of this video, just something to be aware of. And so this is getting a little long, and so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But hopefully this has been helpful to you. This is Doug with Design 8 Studio, and until the next video, I wish you happy making.